Yo, what is good guys, your boy IzuKage here with the movie for What If Naruto Was a Saiyan. And I was thinking about just dropping the next part to this and not the movie, but I was like, why not? I'm pretty sure you guys would enjoy it more, so that's really why I did it. But before we get into the what if, make sure to check out all the links in the description and especially the sponsor of today's video. They have the best anime apparel out there, but I'll get into more of that later on in the video. So let's just get right into the what if. So we start this what if off on Planet Vegeta, and a major difference in this is that Kakarot will have two brothers instead of one, and the other brother being Naruto. So Bardock, being a low-class Saiyan himself, wasn't expected to produce some strong offspring, so Goku's power level is low, like close to the bottom of all low-class Saiyan, while his brother, whose name will still be Naruto since most of the Saiyans we know, their Saiyan names are puns of different foods, mostly vegetables like Kakarot is carrot, Raditz, radish, you get the point. And Naruto is already named after a food. It's mostly called Narutomaki. Well, I don't live in Japan, so I don't know what it's mostly called, but it says Narutomaki or Naruto. So the name will stay the same. When Naruto is getting his power level scanned as a baby, his levels are incredible. Incredibly low, actually. There has been no Saiyan with such a low power level at birth. If there was a tier below low class Saiyan, Naruto would be put into that tier. But as we know, Bardock, he began having these premonitions of Planet Vegeta's impending doom. So after a bit of back and forth with Gine, Bardock convinced her to send their two youngest to the planet Earth, where hopefully they stay off the Frieza Force's radar and can live on. So they put them into pods and carry them out into an area on Planet Vegeta where no one resides there. It's just this rocky area and it's the dead of night. So after their goodbyes, Gine wishes her two boys off, so she turns to Bardock and says, "I hope you aren't wrong about this." So both pods start their course to Earth, and the journey, well, there's no stated time of how long this would take, but I would say since Kakarot survived the journey and we know his appetite is huge, it doesn't take forever. So maybe put it on their 6 months. So halfway into their journey, Naruto's pod experiences some technical malfunction, and because of this, it doesn't avoid an asteroid right in front of it, and Naruto has a head-on collision. And this knocks the pod off course and sends it towards the edge of Universe 7. And while Goku continues on his journey, everything goes the same with him. He arrives on Earth. All the events of canon happen, but Naruto, he is sent, well, as I said, to the edge of the universe, and this would take another 6 months to reach it, and when Naruto does, the pod just disappears. Because there was nothing ever stated about what would happen if you had reached the edge. So Naruto gets transported to a different universe, not 6, 7, or however many universes there are. He gets transported to the Naruto universe. So now with Naruto entering this universe, stuff is gonna be a bit weird, like what would happen to Kushina's child and different things like that, but you guys forget that I'm the writer of this story. So Kushina just doesn't have a child. She can't. After multiple attempts, the only assumption that Kushina could come up with is that the Nine-Tails is interfering with her somehow in not being able to have a child, but her and Minato just had to live with that reality. So now Obito, this all would happen but in a different way. Instead of catching her as soon as she's give birth to Naruto, Obito would kidnap Kushina while she's in her sleep, like at night. So he uses her Kamui and transports her to the extraction area, and this all will go normally. The only difference is it would take a longer amount of time for Obito to start the extraction process, since, you know, giving birth to Naruto, it did loosen it, so it would take a lot more time. So Minato, he doesn't just sit around and just wait until it's extracted. because Obito still has the same fight with Minato, so that all goes relatively the same. And then the Nine Tails is released onto the village and it starts destroying everything. So meanwhile all of this is happening, the pod that Naruto arrived in, it lands on the outskirts of the leaf, and as we all know, this all is happening in the night, and that means the moon is out. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I've seen pictures where in the Nine Tails attack it is a full moon. So when Naruto pods open and he sees the full moon, he turns into his Ozaru form, the massive ape. And let me just get this out of the way from now because I just spent like half an hour researching this. So I'm going to put the Ozaru, Naruto's Ozaru form at around the size of Gamabunta. So that would be like 20-30 meters. So he's not comparing to Kurama, who is around 100 meters. And the reason this was so hard is because these anime drawers, whoever draws these shows, they are not consistent at all. It varies from around 25 to 600 meters, so that's the type of inconsistencies I'm talking about. But with that out of the way, let's just get back into this. So Naruto turns into this great ape just outside of the village, and people inside the village are seeing Naruto as well because he's pretty close. He's just right outside of the village walls. And Naruto, he's coming towards Kurama. And he's looking for a fight, but Naruto doesn't know what to expect. Well, I shouldn't be saying Naruto because he is not at all in control. So Naruto, he gets closer to the village, and Kurama, he sets his eyes onto this ape or whatever it wants to be called. So Minato, he's finished up with Obito. He just fought him and he came back to come deal with the Nine Tails, but something Minato wasn't planning for is this massive ape coming towards the village. So Minato, he's looking at this great ape and he's thinking maybe it's someone summoning. They're trying to attack the village as well. So Minato, he has to deal with both these enemies. But before he could do anything, it looks like Kurama and Naruto's Ozaru form are gonna go head to head. So Naruto, he runs at Kurama trying to body slam him into the ground, but Kurama's nails and his reach are far superior to Naruto's Ozaru form. So Kurama uses his claws and swipes at Naruto's Ozaru form, cutting into his fur and the skin lying under it, and Naruto starts to bleed from this. The Ozaru Naruto starts to get overwhelmed when Kurama rushed the ape and knocks it across the village, falling onto some houses, and Kurama just did this with one of its tails. So Ozaru Naruto, he's exhausted and barely able to move, but he manages to get up, and though exhausted, he opens up his mouth and a ball of ki begins to form. And seeing this, Kurama responded, opening its mouth, and black spheres begin like collecting together into one massive ball. And both moves shoot towards each other and collide, and from the shockwave of energy from this, it pushed both of them back and destroyed some houses in the process. And they just fought against each other but eventually exploded, and luckily it was more in the air, so it didn't do much damage to the village surrounding it. But before Kurama could continue his assault, adamantine chains began wrapping around its legs and its tails, dropping the beast to the ground, making it unable to move. And when Minato started looking around for where the summoning beast was, it just disappeared, and Minato was confused, but he had greater things to deal with, and this being, well, the Nine Tails. So while Kushina was struggling to keep the Nine Tails down, she was just buying a little time for Minato. He rushed over to Hiruzen because he doesn't know what to do with the beast. But on his way there, he sees a baby on the ground without any clothes, and Minato quickly picked up the child before that summoning came back. And Minato looked at this child and his hair was completely black and he had a tail? But then Hiruzen came and his Ambu squad appeared unseen and sees this child he's holding, but there are greater things to deal with. Hiruzen asks Minato, "What do you plan to do with the Nine Tails?" For this, I was gonna leave it up to you guys to choose who gets the Nine Tails, but I'm just gonna give it to Naruto because, well, why not? So Minato, he decides to seal the Nine Tails within this child. Why? Don't ask, my brain hurts enough. So yeah, Minato rushes back to Kushina, who is still struggling to keep the Nine Tails down. So quickly, Minato does the hand signs for the Reaper Death Seal and seals the Nine Tails within Naruto in exchange for his soul. And of course, because the beast was extracted from Kushina, she soon dies after. So Hiruzen gets to Naruto and he decides to raise this child, and he actually gives Naruto a good upbringing for once, since Hiruzen has no reason to believe that Naruto even played a small part in his wife's death. So for 2 years, Naruto has just been living in Hiruzen's house, and at this point he's still like a baby, and he's growing in sort of stages, like how Goku went from this small child to looking like an adult basically. Naruto would be growing in phases. Hiruzen wouldn't see like a constant growth like a regular person. So for these 2 years, Naruto is still, he looks like a toddler. So one day Hiruzen is in his house, which is like right behind the Hokage mansion, and he takes Naruto out to play for once, because Naruto most of the times he would just be inside. Either Hiruzen or Asuma would be taking care of him. So Hiruzen, he wants Naruto to go out and like meet other people his age. So they get to the public playground in the Leaf Village, and everyone, they're talking to Naruto, they're getting along. And while they were playing, Shikamaru stops and asks Naruto, "Why do you have a tail?" And Naruto looks back and sees his tail waving around and just shrugs. "I was born with it, I guess." So Shikamaru, still confused, grabs onto Naruto's tail because, he wants to know more about it. But Naruto freezes and he loses like all his strength almost immediately and falls over looking like he passed out. And Hiruzen, seeing this, he rushed over to Naruto to make sure he was alright. And Shikamaru, he's scared. He thought he did something like wrong. But Hiruzen, he's assuring Shikamaru that, he'll be okay. Or, well, at least he thinks. So Hiruzen begins to walk back home, and by now it's turned to nighttime, and Naruto starts waking up, and Hiruzen looks at Naruto and smiles, and he says, "Glad you're awake, we're going back home." And Naruto just nods and lays his head into Hiruzen's arms. But Naruto, he looks up into the sky, and what he sees is the full moon in all of its glory. And you all know what that means. Naruto gets entranced by the moon, and his hair starts growing on his arms, and he starts growing in size. Hiruzen, he's frightened, like he drops Naruto and backs up and watch as he turns into this massive ape, his Ozaru form. And Hiruzen said, "What the? Naruto is that thing?" And because he's remembering 2 years ago in the Nine Tails attack when he first saw the ape. Hiruzen had to act quickly and he said, "Summoning Jutsu, come forth, Monkey King Enma." And from a massive cloud of smoke came out the Monkey King. And he sees Ozaru Naruto and says, "Dad, is that you?" But Hiruzen said, "Enma, focus, Adamantian Noi." So Enma transforms into this massive adamantium pole, and Hiruzen grabs it, and before Ozaru Naruto could destroy anything, Hiruzen said, "Extend!" And the pole he was holding shot out into the Ozaru's chest and pushed him out of the village and into the forest surrounding it. So Hiruzen, he ran to make sure that, nothing was destroyed, and he's looking at this massive ape, and something is a bit different from the first time that he saw it. Because the first time, the ape, it was going like wild, like it was destroying everything around it. But now it seems to have some semblance of consciousness. So what I'm doing right here is because since Naruto is a bit older, he has a bit more control over his Ozaru form because, well, yeah, Saiyans can control that form. So I'm having it to where Naruto, he doesn't want to attack anything around it because he's grown a connection to the village. So Naruto, he's just standing still trying to fight off these urges he has to just completely rip apart everything. So Hiruzen is just watching the ape just standing there doing nothing. And soon enough, his Anbu come to his side and said, "It's this thing again. What should we do, Hokage?" And Hiruzen says, "Well, we'll just see what happens next," because, he has no plan. Well, he does have a plan to destroy this thing, but it's Naruto. He knows it's Naruto, so he doesn't want to go overboard with it. So he's watching, and after an hour of the ape just standing there, it finally begins to shrink down back into Naruto, like baby Naruto. So Hiruzen, he jumps over to where he saw Naruto shrink down at, and then he picks him up and he's completely passed out. So Hiruzen, he's beginning to think, what even is Naruto? I mean, he knows having a tail isn't necessarily normal, but where is he from? Like, does he have any parents? Because the only thing tying him to a clan relay is his black hair, and even when he went to the Uchihas, they had no idea who Naruto was. So we fast forward 4 years and Naruto is 6 years old, and it's early in the morning and Naruto rushes over to Hiruzen's room, and imagine that scene where Boruto, when he jumps onto Naruto to wake him up, that's exactly what Naruto does. He does the same thing to Hiruzen, and Hiruzen woke up holding his stomach in pain, and he looks at Naruto and said, "Are you trying to kill me?" So Naruto, he laughs but says, "It's my birthday," and Hiruzen is like, "Okay, and Naruto said, "Remember what you said? When I turn 6, you'll teach me taijutsu?" And Hiruzen is like, "Oh, yeah, about that. I'm having a meeting with the elders, so it can wait until I'm back." And Naruto runs to the doorway and says, "I'm not letting you pass." And Hiruzen, at this point, he's over this. Like, Naruto woke him up, he's tired, and he just wants to go and do his job. So he says, "I'm not playing any games, get out of the way." And Hiruzen goes to push Naruto aside, but Naruto grabs his arm and flips Hiruzen, like throwing him down onto his back. And Hiruzen gasped because of the amount of air that exited his lungs. And Hiruzen started breathing heavily and said, "What was that?" He gets up and looks at Naruto and says, "What did you do?" And Naruto shrugged and said, "I saw some people training and I was doing the same thing they did." And Hiruzen was still confused because it felt like someone way stronger than Naruto flipped him, not some kid. And Hiruzen said, "You know what? I'll have Donzo sit in the meeting for me. We can train." So Naruto got all excited and started cheering, and Hiruzen had to quiet him down before he woke Konohamaru up. So the two went to the back of the house where there is a massive training ground, and Hiruzen was across from Naruto, and he started to show him some of the basic techniques like some academy students would be taught. But Naruto is getting bored because it's like the basics, like forms, nothing flashy or super cool. So Naruto, he asks Hiruzen, "When are we gonna learn the cool stuff I see your friends doing?" And Hiruzen, he raises an eyebrow at this and is like, "My friends? What?" But then he realized Naruto might be talking about his Anbu since he trains them in this same training ground. So Hiruzen laughs a bit and says, "Alright, Naruto." So he does a few hand signs and said, "Summoning Jutsu," and Hiruzen summons 5 scrolls, each of them with some of his own taijutsu techniques he written in them. So he hands them off to Naruto and says, "I'll see how you fare with these," and he goes off to the Hokage mansion. So Naruto, he returns to his room and starts practicing everything in these scrolls. Meanwhile, Hiruzen, he goes to the Hokage mansion, and when he gets there, he sees Donzo is just walking out of the meeting, and Donzo asks, "What kept you waiting?" And Hiruzen just began saying how Naruto was pestering him about teaching him taijutsu. So Donzo never actually asked, and he was a bit curious and says, "Why do you even care about that kid anyways? He isn't related to you." And Hiruzen said, "Yeah, I know, but he's also the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki." And Donzo is like, "Hold the phone, now give it back to me. You never said anything about him being the Jinchuriki." Like, what? And Hiruzen shrugs and walks over to his desk and says, "Well, you never asked." And a lot of things begin running through Donzo's mind, and he just says, "Okay," and walks out. Finally, he has something against Hiruzen, something he can try to use to get the role of the Hokage from Hiruzen. So Donzo had his root Anbu go around to spread these rumors about Naruto being the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and most didn't see a problem with it, especially since he's under Hiruzen's surveillance, but a few radical villagers wanted a bit of revenge since they believed Naruto was the actual Kyuubi and not just its Jinchuriki. So these villagers, which are a group of 3 men and a female villager, and they all in the dead of night try to go over to like Hirizen's house where he lives. And at this point, Naruto is the only one at home because Hirizen, he has a bunch of paperwork to do in the night, and Konohamaru and Asuma, who's his uncle, he went off to see Kurenai, so he brought Konohamaru with him because, well, Naruto couldn't take care of him by himself. So Naruto, he's at home still practicing these these taijutsu techniques, and he hears something outside, so he goes to check, and when he's looking around, he sees nothing except like the pitch black sky, and I mean, there's no one around. So Naruto, as he's turning around to go back inside, a rope like gets thrown around him and somebody drags it, tightens it around Naruto's body, and this like traps his arms to his body, and then Naruto starts to get pulled across the ground into the forest, and Naruto, he's squirming around, he's trying to get loose because he can't see who is doing any of this. So at this point, Naruto, he's really scared, but he feels like whoever this is, he can take them because of the amount of effort he's been putting into learning some taijutsu. So when Naruto stops, they're in the middle of the forest and someone lights a torch, and finally Naruto can get a good glimpse at everyone who is there, and he sees the 3 men and this female villager. And Naruto is asking, why did you all do this? What's the problem? And one of the men said, you're the problem. And then he takes out a kunai and stabs it into Naruto's legs, and he starts screaming out in pain and asking while tears are running down his eyes, like, why are you doing this? And Naruto gets, and one of the other, the female stabs another kunai into his other leg, and Naruto, he's still so confused why they're doing this to him. They're basically torturing him out in the middle of nowhere. And Naruto, he's flailing around trying to grab onto something, but with his hands binded, he can't really do much. So Naruto, he tries to get up, but then the other villager just kicks him in the stomach, sending him back to the ground. And they start playing football with Naruto, taking turns kicking him, beating him around. And Naruto at this point, he's coughing up blood because they have hit some of his vital organs. But then the Nine Tails power starts to kick in and it heals Naruto. And because of this healing, and these blows are basically like almost lethal attacks because they start stabbing Naruto elsewhere. So Naruto, he's beginning to heal, and the kunais just shoot out of his body, and then they're like, what the hell is he? And then one of the older guys in the group said, what do you guys expect? Of course, he's a demon, he can heal, so we better finish this quickly. So they all go over to Naruto, ready to finish him off. But that's the point when this red aura starts to surround Naruto, and then it's like he's powering up or something. This aura pushes people away, and then Naruto screams and breaks through the rope he's in, cause Naruto just received a Zenkai boost. And with this boost, Naruto rushes over and uses some of his newly acquired taijutsu abilities to completely demolish this group of villagers because they have no fighting experience while Naruto has been training all day. So Naruto, he mops the floor with all of these villagers, and because of this sudden use of his energy, Naruto, he passes out for around an hour. But when he finally wakes up, he sees the destruction that he's caused. But in his mind, it's justified. I mean, they started it. So Naruto, with this, he returns to the Hokage, well, Hirizen's house. And then he gets back to training because Naruto, he needs to prepare himself for anyone who is ever trying to do that again. So we fast forward 2 years and nobody has found or even tried looking for the bodies that have gone missing, those 4 villagers. So Naruto, he's really in the clear and he's about ready to start the academy. So we start this what if off on Naruto's first day in the academy. But before this, I did have a 2-year time skip. So let me just explain a bit of what happened during that time. So during all of that, Naruto, he would become more adept with some of his Saiyan traits like his tail and his incredible strength, because Naruto, he doesn't realize it, but his strength is on par with the likes of Tsunade, even stronger. And Naruto has started to develop his sense of battle, like his battle smarts and just his love for the fight overall. So Naruto, now we're getting into the academy. So Naruto, he would walk into Iruka's classroom and, well, he isn't there, so he just walks to the back of the classroom and sits next to the window like the usual anime protagonist. And Naruto, he's being watched by a lot of the girls in the class because Naruto is really good looking, bro. He can pull your girl in a heartbeat. So Naruto, he's just sitting there and some girls are just looking at Naruto, forgetting all about their love for Sasuke. So soon enough, Iruka, he comes into the class and starts explaining to everyone that he'll be their teacher for their entire time in the academy, so he hopes they all get along. So after that little introduction, he starts to take attendance, making sure everyone's here, and he calls Naruto's name and they say here. And some of the students kind of recognize his name, but they can't really tell like why they know it. Because Naruto, he wasn't around as much, well, in the village, but Naruto, he just stayed at home training with the scrolls that Hiruzen gave him. So after making note that everyone is here, Iruka, he starts explaining to them what their plans are for sort of the first week they're in the academy. So the first day will be a little test of what they're capable of as a baseline, so when they move to higher and higher grades, they have something to compare to, like where you're starting from versus where you are right now. So Iruka, he takes everyone outside for this little training, and then he sets up different obstacles like gaps to jump over and accuracy training. And after all of that, he's hoping to have a short sparring match, just taijutsu, nothing crazy. So Iruka, he has everyone run through this. Naruto, he's up first, and the only obstacle really is just he has to go up and stand on a pole, like a pole that is just has room for 1 foot. So he has to jump on the pole, then jump over this gap onto another pole, and then just come down. That's really it. Because this is their first day, he doesn't want to give them anything too crazy. So Naruto does this, it's really not a problem, and not a problem for most of the students in the class. So they complete it no problem. And then next up is the accuracy training, and, well, not really training, more accuracy test. So Naruto, he's given 5 kunais and 5 ninja stars to throw at different targets spread all across the trees. So Naruto, he is actually a natural at this because he's used to tracking targets because of some of the training he did. And Naruto, he actually did really well. He got 9 out of the 10, missing 1 of the ninja stars. So Naruto, he went on to the final, well, not really the final stage, but once everyone finished up the accuracy test, they all gathered around this makeshift ring that Iruka made, and he had pairs group up and they would go into this ring and spar. So Naruto's group would be himself and Sasuke. So they both went into the ring. They were the second up. The first were like Shikamaru and Kiba. And Kiba, he did beat Shikamaru because Shikamaru, it was just too much of a drag. So Naruto, he went into the ring and he stood across from Sasuke and got into a stance. And remember, this is before the Uchiha massacre. So Sasuke, he's a bit more respectable, he's a bit more likable. And the girls, they're tied between Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto, just being his first day, he has amassed a group of 5 girls in his fangirl club already that are cheering for him. While Sasuke, he still has the OGs of his group, and they're cheering, "Go Sasuke-kun!" So they're both fighting for who can cheer the loudest, while Naruto and Sasuke are facing across from each other. And Sasuke gets into his own stance, ready to take Naruto down. But when you're fighting, the clothes you wear can affect your range of motion, different things like that, how comfortable you are, and fandom is here to help out. Check out the link in the description for some sick anime merch, and I personally have a hoodie on the way to show that I really trust in the quality of these shirts, hoodies, pants, everything they got. So check out the link in the description, and if you decide to buy anything, use code IzuKage for 5% off. So now that Naruto and Sasuke got the perfect clothes for fighting, they ready themselves as Iruka says, "Fight!" Sasuke ran in first, demonstrating a mastery on some of the basic taijutsu techniques, but Naruto is far past this stage, and after blocking some of Sasuke's attacks, Naruto grabs his wrist and swept Sasuke's legs and threw him over his shoulder, making a slight dent into the ground. And the crowd let out a ooh, and like they cringed because they felt like it hurt themselves as well. And Sasuke, resilient though, got up and back into his stance, and Naruto smiled and ran at Sasuke. But something Iruka and anyone for that matter wasn't expecting was Sasuke starting to weave hand signs. Now Iruka didn't explicitly state that they can't use jutsu, but Sasuke being this young, he wasn't expecting it from anyone there. So Sasuke launched a fireball at Naruto and he started thinking quickly on his feet and just jumped off the ground to dodge the fireball. And Naruto, he spent a ridiculously long time in the air, like he was flying for a second, but he fell back to the ground. And when he did, Naruto landed on Sasuke, pushing him back to the ground, and he held him down with one arm and had his fist raised like about to punch him in the face. But Iruka was like, I've seen enough, and he declares Naruto the winner. And all the girls in the Naruto fan club, they start cheering, like these cheers could be heard all around the village. So Naruto and everyone else for that matter, they return back to class and have short breaks, to replenish some of the energy they lost in that exercise they did outside. So Naruto, he's just sitting on his own, and he actually carried a bento box with him. He bought at a local store before coming to school because he lives with Hiruzen. Come on, he got some money. So Naruto, he's eating his food just on his own, while Sasuke, he keeps turning around and giving glances to Naruto because right now Sasuke, he feels inferior being beaten by Naruto. But while Naruto is just eating on his own, some of his fangirls start coming up to Naruto, and most of them are just background characters like Hinata. She's too shy to even look at him, and Ino and Sasuke, they're still trying to pursue Sasuke. So most of these girls, they're really background characters that don't really get established. So they're trying to offer Naruto some of their own food, giving him anything he wants, and Naruto, he's accepting it. Like the food they carried is amazing. So Naruto, after getting his stomach filled, Iruka comes back to class and tells everyone to clean up and continues on the day like usual. And Iruka, he would teach them a bit about ninja history and some regular school subjects like math and, well, not English, in this case it would be Japanese. And after all that said and done, Naruto returns home. And when he gets home, Hiruzen is actually there, and Naruto is surprised because normally Hiruzen is always in the office, but he wanted to meet Naruto and asked him how was his first day at the academy. So Naruto, he said, it was amazing. I got to show off some of my skills, and the people in class, they're really kind to me. And Iruka, hearing this, he's actually really happy for Naruto because he didn't expect him to get accustomed to being around so many people because Naruto, he was just mainly in the house. So Iruka, he celebrates and brings Naruto out to have some Ichiraku ramen, his favorite of course. So the next day at school, Naruto, they're doing just regular school things, and the next subject up is actually chakra. And in this subject, Iruka, he's trying to show the students how chakra works, the chakra network, different things like that. And then he gets to actually trying to teach them a low rank jutsu, and this jutsu being the transformation jutsu. So Naruto, he is up first because Iruka, he wants to see how Naruto would fare actually learning a jutsu because he already knows Sasuke has one, and Naruto, he did so well in the sparring, so why not? So he goes up and Iruka explains to Naruto that he needs to perform a hand sign and then start charging up the chakra within him, and he explains it as a energy that flows through every living thing. So Naruto, he begins charging his energy, and Iruka, he's getting a weird feeling coming off Naruto. It's not like any chakra, well, he can't sense chakra, but when chakra is that ominous, like the average day person can feel it. And what he's feeling isn't anything he's felt before, like any chakra he has, but he still lets Naruto continue doing this. So Naruto is holding the hand sign and he's trying to charge up his energy within him. And then Naruto, he starts screaming out loud, and then this burst of energy comes from Naruto, pushing Iruka back and pushing everyone else back and throwing papers all across the room, and people are wondering what that was. And Iruka, he is still on the ground with a paper laying on his face, so he takes it off and he's like, "What was that, Naruto?" And Naruto, he's looking around and he doesn't know what he just did. So Iruka, he takes Naruto to the nurse's office because he thinks something is wrong with him, I don't know. But he requests the Hokage's presence because of what Naruto just did. So within much time, Iruka comes because he cares about Naruto. He's basically his guardian, almost his father at this point. So he comes and sees Naruto in the nurse's office and he asks Naruto what was wrong. So Naruto, he explains the situation of how he was trying to charge up his chakra, and then this huge wave of energy pushed everyone back. And after explaining it, Iruka came in and he confirmed like all the stories. So Hiruzen, he's trying to wrap his head around what Naruto is telling him because he has never heard of anything like this, like chakra being able to push someone. So Naruto tries demonstrating it again to Hiruzen, so he performs a hand sign and bends his knees and starts charging energy within him. But this time it was visible like a blue aura around Naruto, and Hiruzen said, "Try concentrating your energy into a single form." And then the blue aura around Naruto started collecting into a ball in front of him, and Naruto opened his eyes seeing this, and he was excited. So excited that the ball of ki flew out of control and started hitting all over the walls and went through two of them because they were really thin walls, and then hits a teacher. And Hiruzen and Iruka were speechless at what just happened. And Hiruzen is thinking, like, could this explain why Naruto could transform into an ape? But Hiruzen was brought out of his thoughts when Iruka said, "Mizuki, are you alright?" So after dealing with that, Mizuki, he was pretty banged up. And after seeing the damage that this thing that Naruto made could do, Hiruzen was really intrigued by this. So after returning home that day, Hiruzen wanted Naruto to try doing it some more, try seeing if it's something he can control. So that Naruto did, and for the next hours, Naruto tried different ways of applying this energy he has, this ki. So for the next 3 months, Naruto has been trying to develop some sort of skill with this energy, and he's been successful in making the Walmart version of a Kamehameha because it really doesn't shoot that far. He has to be really close to the person, and it's not all that powerful. But in the Naruto world, it really is a bit powerful. So Naruto, he would actually start training with some of the Anbu members that I would say because Anbu members, they would normally train with Hiruzen behind his house. So Naruto, instead of just sitting inside and watching, he would actually go out there, talk to some of them and get to know them. And this would give Naruto a good reputation with some of the members in the Anbu. And not only that, Naruto would basically be trained by people who have had experience in like doing a bunch of really dangerous missions, like putting their life on the line for the village. So Naruto would get some useful advice and training from these ninjas. So after a regular day at school, Naruto, he would visit Hiruzen in his office. And when he walks into the room, Hiruzen is surprised to see Naruto because he never comes here to meet him or anything. So he asks Naruto, "What do you need? Is something wrong?" And Naruto responds with, "I want a mission." And Hiruzen, he had to pause for a second and said, "A mission? Like, do you even know what you're talking about?" So Naruto, he's explaining that yes, he wants a mission to prove himself, to show that he is strong and can go on, dangerous missions. And Hiruzen, he's wondering where he's getting all of this from. And Naruto, he's just been influenced from all the Anbu members he's been around. So Hiruzen, he decides to listen to what Naruto has to say. And Naruto, it's like he's spent the last 2 days creating a script to read to Hiruzen because each of his words are perfectly selected to make him feel bad for him. So he's like, please, I want to prove myself, to show that I'm not a weakling, to show that I can be strong, to show that I can be the next Hokage. And Naruto, he's bringing up some pretty good points, and Hiruzen, like, he's starting to think maybe I should give him a mission. But then his senses snapped to him and said, no, Naruto, you're an academy student. You're not even finished your first year. Maybe after that, I'll think about it. So Naruto, he's getting like really sad and slouched, and Hiruzen's personal Anbu, who are always around watching him, they just couldn't help but speak up. So they said to Hiruzen, give the kid a chance. Like, we know him, we know how strong he is and how strong-minded he is. Just give him a D-rank mission, see how he does on that. And Hiruzen, he's surprised that these guys even talk, because they normally just keep quiet and stay in the shadows. And if they're gonna speak up for Naruto, then maybe he'll give him a chance too. So Hiruzen reluctantly starts sifting through some of the D-rank missions he has, and then he finds one that's not really too bad. It's a farmer whose carrots keeps being eaten up by these pigs. So Naruto is tasked to go find and basically get rid of these pigs out of the area. So Naruto, he's like, I won't let you down. And he runs off, and Hiruzen is like, I hope you two are right, you know, talking to his Anbu. So Naruto, he runs out to the farmer's field that Hiruzen told him about, and then he sees the farmer he looks pissed off, like, and when he sees what the farmer is looking at, all his crops are uprooted, and like he's at his wit's end. So the farmer sees Naruto, and then a relief comes over him, and he's like, finally, Hiruzen sent someone to help me out. Now come, kid, these damn pigs keep eating up my carrots. So Naruto, he's like, well, where are they? And the man says, well, I don't really know that they are pigs. It's just that they're the only thing I could think of, really. And Naruto, he sighs and says, alright, I'll just keep looking around, maybe stake out the place. So the farmer, he goes back to his regular days, planting and harvesting some of his crops. And Naruto, he sticks around trying to wait for anything to happen, trying to wait for these pigs to come back. And Naruto, he's waiting there for actual days. It's been 3 days since Naruto was assigned to the mission. He hasn't gone to school any at all, the academy. But of course, Hiruzen, he would just cover for Naruto, saying he has some important business to attend to. So Naruto, on his third day of staking out this farm plantation, it's like the nighttime, and Naruto, he sees stuff that are definitely not pigs. These group of men running in and stealing some of the farmer's crops, and they stuff it into bags and run off. And Naruto, he's just weirded out by what these people are doing, but he quickly runs to catch up with them, and he does in no time. Naruto, he's really fit, so he catches up in no time. And these guys, they're like, who is this kid? And one of the older ones said, it doesn't matter, let's just deal with him now. And he draws his sword, throwing the sack of crops he had to one of the other guys there. And he runs at Naruto, holding his sword high up in the air, ready to cut straight down at him. And then he does in one swift motion, but Naruto, he just easily dodges this and knocks the sword out of the guy's hand. And the guy's like, what the hell? He's like, doesn't matter, I'll just defeat you the old-fashioned way. And like, pushes his fist into his palm, like suggesting that he's gonna beat up Naruto. So Naruto, he jumps back, and then the guy just chuckles, like, because he thinks Naruto is scared. But Naruto, he starts charging up one of his ki blasts, this time not using a hand sign, and creating a space between both his hands to create this ball of ki. So Naruto starts charging up this ball, while the guy who just stole the farmer's crops, he doesn't care about Naruto. He's like, what's this kid gonna do? He's just playing with lights or something. So he steps closer to Naruto, and Naruto releases his ki blast, and this hits the guy right in the middle of the chest and sends him flying back. And it sends him really far back, and the two other guys are watching him like, what the hell? and they run off scared, but Naruto, he realizes that they were so scared that they dropped the bags that they had the crops in. So Naruto, he just takes them up and carries them back to the farmer. So the next morning, Naruto returns to Hiruzen's office, telling him all the information he gained from the mission, and Hiruzen is actually impressed that Naruto managed to fend off some, well, what seemed to be thieves, like merchants who were planning to resell the farmer's crops. And Hiruzen is impressed by the discipline that Naruto had on this mission, spending those sleepless nights in the night just trying to catch something, or well, what he thought at first was just animals. And this sort of dedication piqued Hiruzen's interest, and he was thinking that maybe Naruto is, worthy for some harder missions, but for now he keeps giving him D ranks. And Naruto, he does them. It's sort of the same thing that Team 7 was doing, catching cats, helping old ladies. But Naruto, he was happy to help, because eventually Naruto would get a harder mission, and this would be a C rank mission. So Hiruzen would give him a mission tasking him with surveying a town that had been recently attacked, and it's not really far, it's still in the land of fire. But Naruto, he was ready to go. So that evening he packed up his bags, the little he needed to survive, and headed out to the town Hiruzen mentioned. So now it doesn't really take long for Naruto to find it, and when he does, this town is in absolute ruins. The buildings are torn down. So Naruto, he begins walking around trying to see if he could find, well, any survivors of this attack, because based on what Hiruzen said, it wasn't too long ago. So Naruto, he's walking around this abandoned town, and he's climbing over piles of rubbles like fallen bricks and stuff like that. And Naruto, he's just walking when he hears someone like calling out for help. So Naruto, he quickly runs over to where he hears the voice, and he sees this girl with red hair. So he rushes over and starts pulling off the bricks on top of her and pulls Karin out. And when he does, Karin is covered in dried up blood, and Naruto, he's concerned because he sees all this blood. So he quickly goes to one of the half-broken buildings for shelter, because it's turning to night soon. So Naruto, when he gets there, he just tells Karin to wait there, and Naruto goes to gather some water from a river he, passed to get to this town. So when he gets back, it's not too long, Karin is still there. So Naruto used some of the supplies he carried in his bag to make a fire, and he brings out some ramen and makes 2 for the both of them. So when Karin gets her cup of ramen, she starts devouring it because she had been under the rubble for 2 days now. So Naruto, he's just watching and smiling because Karin, she's going ham on this ramen. So, and after she finishes, she dozes off to sleep. So Naruto, he finishes his and follows suit, and when the next morning rolls around, Karin wakes up looking into Naruto's sleeping face, and at first she was peaceful but realized what she was doing and jumped up, waking Naruto up also. So Naruto, he's up and says, "Oh, you're awake." And Karin, she has been like silent this entire time. She hasn't talked once, and she just kept silent. And Naruto, he's like, "Oh well, let's head back to the village." But before he does, Naruto makes note of the situation in the town. There's no one here, and the place is just in complete ruins. So Naruto, he asks Karin if he would like to come back to the Leaf Village with him, and she agrees. I mean, she has nothing left in her hometown, and her parents were kidnapped. Well, her mom was kidnapped for her ability to heal people. So Karin, she decides to head back to the Leaf Village with Naruto, so they both get to walking. And because they're walking, it does take a few more hours for them to reach to the Leaf, but it's not too bad, like 6 hours. And when they arrive, Naruto takes Karin to the Hokage's office, and he explains the situation to her. And Hiruzen is like, alright, and he decides to give Karin her own little apartment, similar to one that Naruto had in canon. So that's where she would stay for the time being, and Naruto would actually visit her from time to time, making sure she's okay. And meanwhile, Naruto is still getting C and D rank missions, and Hiruzen is feeling a lot more comfortable with giving Naruto these, that he's even giving him B and like 1A. And this is all over the course of 4 years, and you can tell that Naruto has grown immensely in maturity because he's doing these missions. And Naruto has just stopped going to the academy to focus on his ninja life, and he doesn't even have a headband yet. But that doesn't really determine how strong someone is, because Naruto has developed a lot more key techniques and learned something that he had a suspicion for a long time. The ability to fly, because Naruto, he had always been able to jump really high and sort of float, but never truly master flight. But Naruto, he realized he just has to concentrate this ki all over his body and just push off like he's floating through the air. And another thing that Naruto has done over these 4 years is gotten a lot of respect from the different Jonins in the village, like Kurenai, Asuma, and even Izumo and Kotetsu, which, well, I knew as the gate guards. I didn't really know their names until like 2 days ago. So Naruto is in Hiruzen's office receiving a B rank mission, and he asked him, like, can I become an Anbu? And Hiruzen is confused why Naruto would want to become one, and Naruto says, well, I think that I've gained enough experience and I've trained with them, so at least let me see what a mission for an Anbu is like. And Naruto waited in silence for a response, and then Hiruzen, he didn't say anything. He reached into a drawer next to him and pulled out a headband as well as some Anbu gear and threw it to Naruto, who managed to catch them. And he said, what's all this? And Hiruzen was like, I've been expecting you to ask, so I had those prepared for you. Naruto was excited and he ran out of Hiruzen's office and went home. Meanwhile, Kakashi, who was actually talking to Hiruzen before Naruto came in, he came out of hiding and he asked Hiruzen, are you sure that's a good idea? And Hiruzen said, yeah, the kid's actually pretty strong. He'll probably give you a run for your money. And Kakashi laughs, thinking Hiruzen is just over-exaggerating, which he is not. But let's continue. So Naruto, he puts on all his Anbu gear and looking into the mirror like, damn, I'm the real deal. So Naruto, he returns to Hiruzen's office later in the night, where he and 2 other Anbu members are given a mission. And this mission is to assassinate a rogue ninja off the leaf, and from the intel they've gathered, it shows that their location is in a small village on the border of the land of rice to the north. So the Anbu bowed their heads and went to the village gates. There, the female of the group said, you two ready? But before Naruto could answer, he heard someone call out his name, and this was Karin. So Naruto, he runs back from the great gates to meet Karin, and she runs up breathing heavily because she was trying to catch up to Naruto before he left, and she handed Naruto a food pill she made herself. And Naruto grabbed it and looked at it, asking what's in it, and Karin responded, it's my chakra, so it will give you the same effect of biting me, so if you ever needed it, use it. And Naruto smiled and said, come here, and trapped Karin into a hug, and she was too flustered to hug back. And when Naruto let her go, she started stumbling like she was drunk, and Naruto asked, are you alright? And Karin didn't respond and ran off, holding her hands to her face. And Naruto was going to go after her, but Aiko, the female Anbu, said, Naruto, let's go. So he put the food pill in his pocket and jumped to his group, where they set off to their mission. So it takes about 3 days for them to arrive in the land of rice, but when they do, Naruto immediately sees the village that Hiruzen was talking about in the intel they got for the mission. So Naruto and the other groups, they decide to spend the night here and try and talk to the different people living in the village to see if they've ever seen the picture of the guy they have. And the guy that they have looks an awful lot like Naruto's old sensei, like one of the teachers that taught him in the academy, being Mizuki. But Naruto, he didn't really put 2 and 2 together since Mizuki was never a huge part of teaching in the academy. So Naruto with Aiko and the other male Anbu all named Haru, they go around with pictures of Mizuki, But for the entire day, they had no luck, and this goes on for literal weeks. And Naruto is getting really annoyed while Aiko and Haru are just chilling because they're used to this by now. Some Anbu missions can go on for months. But by the 4th week, Naruto had seriously had enough, so he told Aiko and Haru he found the location of the missing nin right outside the village. And when Aiko and Haru came, they were wondering what Naruto was talking about. They were in the middle of a forest, but Naruto said to them, Hiruzen didn't say anything about recovering the body, so long as he's dead, that's fine, right? And Aiko nodded her head like, yeah, so what? So Naruto, he begins charging up a huge ball of ki, and then he began to compress it, making it smaller and smaller, and Aiko and Haru are wondering what this was, and Naruto threw the tiny orb towards the village and turned around and said to his team, let's go. And Haru grabbed Naruto's shoulder and said, what about the mission? I know you're new, but you can't just give up. And Naruto knocked Haru's hand off his shoulder and said, who's giving up? And Naruto started walking, and when Aiko and Haru turned around, a massive explosion went off, sending a shockwave out, breaking some of the trees in the forest and shaking the earth itself. Both of them got flung across the forest and hitting into a tree. And when things finally started to settle after a few minutes after, Aiko and Haru got up and looked at, well, what was once the village, but it was now nothing but a huge crater. And Naruto, who was trying to act composed, was almost fully drained of his ki and was starting to lose consciousness, and then he remembered about the food pill Karin gave him and hoped it replenished his energy as well, not just physical damage. So he ate it, and luckily it did, and Naruto felt almost as good as new. So he said to his team, we have a long way to go, so let's get moving. So within 3 days, the group returns to the Leaf Village, and when they report to Hiruzen's office, like after Naruto left, Aiko and Haru told Hiruzen about what Naruto did, and this really troubled Hiruzen because he never knew Naruto to be someone who would resort to that type of violence, but he's at the same time impressed that Naruto could destroy a village in a single move, and to them it seemed like Naruto, he didn't even break a sweat. So because of this, Hiruzen let Naruto continue these Anbu missions because though it might be a bit violent, but Naruto, he could be efficient in missions that would take months to do. Naruto could do really easily. So Naruto continues this for a year, and Naruto is now 13 and still in the Anbu. And during his time there, Naruto has grown a personality similar to Kakashi, where he is silent and reserved, but when it matters, Naruto, he will destroy you. But let's switch from Naruto and go to the newly formed Team 7. And this time Team 7 would be Sasuke, Sakura, and Karin, because she decided to go to the academy, and when they assessed her, they decided that she was about this grade level and lumped her into the class with Sasuke, Sakura, basically the Konoha 12. So that team is made, and of course it goes similar to canon where they wait for Kakashi and they go to the roof, tell him about their likes, dislikes, basically just introduce themselves, and after that Kakashi instructs them to meet him at the training fields tomorrow. So all of that goes to canon except for Naruto's place would be exchanged for Karin. And speaking of Naruto, while he's off his missions, Naruto would be spending most of his times at Karin's apartment, where they just chill, have fun, and as my boy Zether would say, study. But on this day, Karin would tell Naruto about her meeting with Kakashi the next day, and Naruto is like, oh, okay. He's heard of Kakashi's name in the Anbu, Anbu members talking about him, so he wants to see how Kakashi fights like in person. So when the next morning rolls around, Naruto as well as Karin go to the training grounds, but Naruto stays out of sight. He stays a good distance away just to watch. So Kakashi, of course, he's late again, and he explains the bell test to his team. So while their teams are setting up and Kakashi is just reading his book, he can sense someone just watching him, but he can't tell the certain direction because Naruto doesn't have chakra, and you'd normally use chakra to sense where someone is. And Naruto as well can even suppress his ki, but it's not something Naruto does regularly because sensory type ninjas in this world, they would have to be mastery level to start sensing ki. So Naruto, he's just chilling and watching while Karin and her team, they're actually putting in work against Kakashi. Naruto watches as Sasuke and Kakashi get into a taijutsu fight, and he's watching Sasuke and said, okay, he's gotten a lot better the last time we fought, but still nowhere near my level. And eventually, Sasuke does get caught in the trap that hangs him upside down on a tree, while Karin is using her adamantine chains to try and defeat Kakashi, but it was no use, especially against his Sharingan that he used to easily dodge the chains, and in the end, the team did get defeated, but Kakashi did see the potential in the team. They did use some teamwork. Sakura, she just kind of stayed back doing nothing. But he did see the potential in the team, so he let them all pass. So Naruto is watching this and he's like, okay, Kakashi, he has a Sharingan, he's decent, okay. So let me have a bit of exposition here. Naruto, while in the Anbu, he has gotten a name for himself, and Naruto's abilities and strength have spread far and wide to the ears of the Akatsuki. And they've known for Naruto for months now. They just don't know what to do with Naruto because from what reports say, Naruto, without even using most of his strength, he can destroy towns and villages just like that. But what they didn't know is Naruto's next mission would bring them right to him. So Naruto, he gets another mission from Hiruzen and he sets off with his team to the land of Rain, where there is a civil war breaking out and they need to stop it because it could turn into something bigger. So when the group arrives, his group is on scene, and what they see is nothing like a civil war. They see these men in black robes fighting each other, and the reason for this mix-up is someone who saw this took it the wrong way and just reported it to the closest village. So, I mean, that being the Leaf. So Naruto sees these men and his team. They decide to hide behind a nearby tree and ask each other, like, what do they do? Do they fight it or return to the village and inform Hiruzen? So Naruto, he's really confident in his abilities, and none of them know that this is the Akatsuki. So, and they don't know how dangerous they are. So Naruto decides to stay and fight. And since it's pretty early on, not a lot of the members are here. They're missing Tobi, Deidara, Sasori, and Hidan. And Itachi and Kisame would be there, but they're out on their own mission looking for the Three Tails. So Naruto is having a lot of confidence in his strength, and he flies up, which is new to his teammates, and he flies really fast over to the group of ninjas, and he holds a disc made of ki in his hand and throws it at this massive summoning made by the animal path, and it went right through it, shredding the summoning, and it just poofs away. And this catches the attention of all the Paths of Pain and the other members of the Akatsuki. So Naruto looks down at them, and first off, Pain is wondering how this guy is even flying, but he pays no mind to that, and the two get into a heated fight. While Zetsu merges into the ground and goes to the real body of Pain, where he explains that that is the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and as Zetsu says that, Pain starts going even harder. Like, Pain uses Universal Push to shoot the chakra absorbing path towards Naruto, and it grabs him and tries starting to siphon off his chakra, but Naruto has none, and he has ki, and he throws his head back and like headbutts the Pain, and it knocks him back to the ground. So Naruto is reevaluating his plans, and he might be fighting a losing battle if only he had more power. And that's when Naruto looks to his tail that he wraps around his waist, but it's not nighttime, so he can't use his Ozaru form, and Naruto, he doesn't know about the artificial moon, so he begins flying up to charge his ki. Since he knows that chakra can be used to enhance one's strength, maybe ki can do the same thing. So Naruto flies high up in the sky, out of reach of the Akatsuki, and starts charging up his chakra, screaming at the top of his lungs, and a bright yellow light shines across the sky before turning red. And when the transformation was finished, Naruto was in a Super Saiyan 4 state. And with this new power, he flew down, destroying Kakuzu first with a single punch. But Kakuzu has more hearts, but Naruto kept destroying them as he comes back for more. And eventually Kakuzu is completely out of commission after all his hearts are destroyed. Then are the paths of pain, and Naruto, he doesn't know most of their powers. He only knows two of them, three. The animal path that can summon these giant beasts, the pain that can push people, he thinks, and the pain that can siphon off your chakra. So Naruto, he doesn't want to give any of them any chances, so he starts charging up a massive ki blast. This isn't a Kamehameha, but it's just a huge ball, similar to, kind of a cross between the Kamehameha and a spirit bomb. So Naruto, he charges up this attack. It takes a while, and when the Akatsuki were rushing Naruto to catch him off guard while he was charging the attack, his Anbu teammates came out of hiding to block them from reaching Naruto while he continues to charge. And as he finishes, he tells Aiko and Haru to get out of the way, and they quickly do. And Naruto fires the ki blast at all of them, destroying them. And this ki blast was so potent, there was no remains. They literally were disintegrated. Zetsu, seeing this amount of strength from Naruto, he was thinking he wanted it for himself. So white and black Zetsu separate from each other, and white Zetsu merge back into the ground. Like that technique he has to just move into the ground. So he does that and reappears behind Naruto as he was walking towards his Anbu team. So he appears behind Naruto and runs up, and his team tries to warn Naruto, but it latches onto Naruto's body. And Naruto, he's squirming around trying to get out of it, but white Zetsu, it's not letting go. And as Naruto's body was going to be completely covered, he screamed, releasing a large amount of ki, and this pushed white Zetsu off and knocked it to the ground, where Naruto used a small ball of ki, compressed ki, to completely destroy white Zetsu. So black Zetsu was left there watching, thinking of what to do, but he'll just report back to Madara. So Naruto and his teammates return to the village, or I should say what is left of the village, because what they see are some of the buildings are blown up and the arena is completely destroyed. Because in this, Naruto, he was not in the Chunin exams, and while they were out, the Chunin exams was in process. So Hiruzen did die from his fight with Orochimaru, and with the whole Gaara thing, Karin as well as some of the other Jonin in the village managed to take it down with a lot of struggle, mind you. Well, they did come out with a win, but a massive loss with Hiruzen's death. But Naruto was actually elected to become the next Hokage because he was the strongest, and Hiruzen did have that he want Naruto to take over for him. But that wasn't for another 5 years. So Naruto would have to wait until he is 18 to ascend to the title of Hokage. Meanwhile, they are in need of the next Hokage, and like canon, Tsunade is found to be the next one. So during the 2-year time skip, Naruto would train the hardest he has ever done in his life, because he would think that the Akatsuki would come to attack the village, but after he had attacked their leader and basically wiped them out, they had actually disbanded while Zetsu is still trying to find a way to get Madara reanimated. But the people he would normally go to for that, like Orochimaru or Kabuto, they were all killed by Naruto because he had gotten missions to kill them or assassinate them because they were a danger to the Leaf. And trust me, Naruto felt good getting revenge for Hiruzen when he killed Orochimaru. He did not hold back. So Naruto would get a reputation in the village as being sort of the village's protector, because behind the scenes Naruto has been working a lot to keep the village safe. And trust me, when Sasuke found out what Naruto was doing, he was furious. But Naruto is just stronger, and that's not something he can change. but he definitely trains as much as he can. So year after year, Naruto gets immensely stronger, becoming one of the strongest beings in the entire Naruto universe, but never as strong as his brother Goku, because Goku is fighting people who are getting progressively stronger than him, but while Naruto is getting stronger, the people around him are getting weaker. So Naruto, he is strong, but he's basically the strongest he'll ever get. So eventually he does ascend to the role of Hokage and becomes the village's protector for years to come. And that is where I'm going to be leaving this one off. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. And if you liked it, like. And if you like my content in general, consider subscribing. And again, make sure to check out the links in the description. You got my Discord, some dope anime merch, so make sure to check those out. And I know I promised a double upload yesterday when in fact I posted nothing. So sorry about that, but let's just say life happened. Like I couldn't make it, so I had to push it back a day. So hopefully you guys enjoy it anyways. And I'll see you guys in the next What If.